Tonight, no cuts. The Prime Minister says public spending won't be slashed as she tries to defend her economic plans.
The action we have taken has meant that families in Scotland and across the United Kingdom are not facing gargantuan energy bills.
We'll also have the latest on IndyRef 2 as the Supreme Court hears from the Scottish and UK governments. In other news, a recruitment drive for paramedics. But despite more resources, a warning about waiting times in Scotland's A&E departments.
Our days are just much busier. Since I started the job, I've seen a huge change in the workload and in the pressure.
And tonight's sport comes from Ibrox ahead of Rangers against Liverpool in the Champions League.
I'm Vanessa Kennedy in Edinburgh.
And I'm John Mackay in Glasgow. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. The Prime Minister was told to stop ducking responsibility today as she was grilled by MPs for the first time since announcing her economic plans. Last month's mini-budget sparked market turmoil, sending the pound into freefall and triggering an emergency intervention from the Bank of England.
Liz Truss is defending her record and insisting her policies will lead to higher growth and lower inflation. Our Westminster correspondent Catherine Sampson reports.
Have you wrecked the economy, Prime Minister?
A lot has changed since Liz Truss got into number 10. After a month of turmoil, the Prime Minister is facing demands to tear up her mini-budget.
Who voted for this? Not homeowners paying an extra $500 extra on their mortgages. Who voted this? Not working people paying for tax cuts to the largest companies. Who voted for this? Not even most of the MPs behind her who know you can't pay for tax cuts on the never, never. Does she think the public will ever forgive the Conservative Party if they keep on defending this madness and go ahead with a kamikaze budget?
Mr. Speaker, what our budget has delivered is security for families for the next 2 winters. It's made sure that we're going to see higher economic growth, lower inflation and more opportunities.
The only thing growing under this government are mortgages, rents and bills. Is that what she really meant when she declared herself a pro-growth Prime Minister?
The action we have taken has meant that families in Scotland and across the United Kingdom are not facing gargantuan energy bills. And what the Honourable Gentleman and his friends in Scotland could do to help us out is build the nuclear power stations that are going to help our energy security, help us get more gas out of the North Sea.
Under pressure to make more U-turns, the Prime Minister's attack on Labour's energy policy rather backfired.
Mr. Speaker, I'm genuinely unclear about what
And again.
Mr. Speaker, I'm genuinely unclear.
And there were audible gasps when the Prime Minister ruled out public spending cuts.
Is she going to stick to that?
Absolutely.
Something that will make balancing the books harder. The Bank of England's chief economist was in Glasgow today, warning a substantial interest rate hike will be needed in November because of pressure caused by the mini-budget. It's been a painful month. The Prime Minister is now looking for a route through this that will convince the country and some in her own party she has the right plan.
And Catherine, the Prime Minister has been trying to charm her party today.
That's right. I mean, it was pretty muted on Conservative benches at Prime Minister's questions this afternoon. And afterwards, Liz Truss was seen touring the tea rooms in Westminster. In the last hour, she's been meeting with members of the 1922 committee. That's that powerful committee of backbench Tory MPs. And I suppose the key question so many MPs are asking is, given that, very clear commitment she gave in the chamber there, no cuts to public spending, how can any plan or package that doesn't then include a reversal of promised tax cuts truly satisfy or steady the markets. Now, of course, the Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, he is effectively drawing up what will effectively be a new budget to be revealed on Halloween, October the 31st. There is a lot of pressure on him and a lot riding on the market's reaction to that. OK, Catherine at Westminster, thank you.
The highest court in the UK is considering whether it should rule on the Scottish Parliament's power to hold an independence referendum. 5 Supreme Court judges have heard arguments from both the Scottish and the UK governments.
The lawyer representing the UK government called on them to kick out the case without even making a ruling. Scotland's top law officer, the Lord Advocate, argued that Holyrood needs a definitive ruling on whether it can hold another referendum. Our political editor Colin Mackay has been watching the court case for the last 2 days. Colin, what was the focus today?
Well, the Lord Advocate is arguing 2 points. Firstly, that the Supreme Court should consider this, and secondly, that they should make a judgment on whether the Scottish Parliament can hold an advisory referendum. The UK government argue that that's outside the Scottish Parliament's powers. But the main focus of their argument today wasn't even that. What they were arguing was that the court shouldn't even bother ruling on this because it's procedurally incoherent.
And the problem for her is that the Scottish Government do not like the answer that she has given on competence. She is not able to form a view with a sufficient degree of confidence that the bill which is proposed would be within competence. There isn't a difficulty with answering the question. The difficulty here is with the answer.
Now, watching the proceedings over the last couple of days, it kind of feels like the Supreme Court judges are minded to take the case, but we don't know that for sure. Although the Lord President, Lord Reid, who is a Scottish judge, said at the outset of the case yesterday and again at the close today that he understands the constitutional importance of the case. But because the referendum that's being proposed is only consultative, the Lord Advocate has argued that the legal impact of it would be nil. Today, Sir James Eadie completely dismissed that on behalf of the UK government. He said the only reason for holding it was to break up the union.
What are the provisions really about? They are about seeking the views of those entitled to vote in the referendum for the purpose of furthering the Scottish Government's avowed aim to end the Union and to make Scotland independent of the United Kingdom.
We do raise legitimate, important and constitutionally crucially important questions for not only Scotland but for the whole of the United Kingdom, and it's entirely appropriate that this court, the Supreme Court of this country, deals with this issue.
Now, in 2014, we all faced a simple answer, yes or no, to the question, should Scotland be an independent country? But you don't get simple questions, let alone answers, in the Supreme Court. We might even have to wait until the new year to get an answer at all. But behind all the highfalutin legal arguments, there is a fairly basic political premise here, is should the Scottish Parliament have the power to legislate for an advisory referendum? And ultimately, the answer for the Supreme Court might not be that simple, but it will mean yes or no.
OK, Colin at Holyrood, thanks for that. Paramedics say the record waiting times in Scotland's A&E departments are making the health service a less safe pathway than in previous years, and they worry for their patients. Just yesterday we reported over 1,500 people waited more than 12 hours to be seen in the week before last.
The Health Secretary Hamza Yousaf met paramedics today in Edinburgh and says the additional £45 million spent on the ambulance service will help with efficiencies. Ivana Holland reports.
Ambulance staff met with the Health Secretary today and got the chance to explain the reality of their roles. A service they believe could do with more resources, better community care and finding an alternative to bringing patients to A&E, where waiting times continue to increase.
We have in the past known that the emergency department is the place to take people to be treated and to be seen immediately by a doctor. But it can't be that place all the time now. It doesn't feel as safe a pathway as it used to. I feel often now that you've got elderly people that you know that will wait hours within the department to wait to be seen, and that doesn't now feel like the safest thing. You worry for those people waiting hours to be seen. So where could they be? Where should they be? Since I started the job, I've seen a huge change in the workload and in the pressure.
Humza Yousaf says the investment of the winter funding announced last year of £300 million will go towards fixing those inefficiencies.
A significant proportion of that was into social care, because we know if we can get people out of the hospitals in terms of those 1,800 delayed discharges that we've got, that helps with the flow, it helps with the A&E flow, helps to see people quicker, but frankly it helps us at the front door too.
It's been a busy 12 months in terms of recruitment for the Scottish Ambulance Service. A reported 540 paramedics, ambulance drivers, clinicians and call handlers have all been employed within the last 12 months. But Unison say that number is misleading, as is the announcement of £45 million as a funding boost.
In reality, the Winter Resilience Programme is going to be supported with a push to employ student paramedics and on part-time contracts.
The Scottish Government maintains the £45 million as an increase on the baseline spend for the ambulance service. A group of staff who hope that as resources are pledged, the pressure will ease. Ivana Holland, STV News.
The first results from a large-scale study into the long-term impact of COVID has revealed 1 in 20 people has still not fully recovered from having the virus. The research, led by Glasgow University, found only around a half of patients reported feeling partially better up to a year and a half later.
Lasting effects were more likely to occur after severe infections that needed hospital treatment. Our chief reporter Sharon Frew has been taking a look at the findings.
I feel as if I can't do anything.
When this study launched last May, STV News spoke to Sharon Hyland about how her life and health had completely changed after COVID. She spent Christmas 2020 in intensive care.
I feel as if my future's just been cut off.
17 months on, the former hairdresser is recovering at home after catching COVID for a second time. Again, she needed hospital treatment and was given antiviral drugs.
You feel as if you're going like 2 steps forward and 5 back, because I don't know what my immune system's like, so I'm scared to catch anything at all because I don't want to end up back in hospital. I have pain in my hands, I have pain in my legs, I have mobility problems trying to walk about, so it's affected my life 110%.
The Glasgow University-led research set out to understand the long-term impact of COVID and compare it with the health and well-being of those who had not been infected at all. Most people recovered quickly and completely, but it found 6% felt they had not recovered at all. 42% reported feeling only partially recovered between 6 and 18 months later. The most reported symptoms included breathlessness, chest pain, palpitations and confusion or brain fog.
People who are older, women, people who live in more deprived areas were all more likely to get long COVID. People who had more severe COVID infections, those who needed to go into hospital when they were infected, were more likely to get it. And people who had pre-existing health conditions, particularly respiratory disease, mental health problems, and especially people who had more than one condition prior to being infected.
It's like somebody's turned a switch off, like the battery's gone flat.
Jane took part in the study. Like Sharon, long COVID has dramatically changed her life. The retired nurse wants to see a greater understanding of the condition lead to specialist services.
From diagnosis to treatment and rehabilitation for long COVID, with people who know what they're doing in terms of their knowledge of long COVID. It's not enough to say this is a new thing. It's not a new thing 2.5 years later.
The Scottish Government is investing an initial £3 million for NHS boards to deliver long COVID services that meet local needs. Those behind this study hope it will help inform longer-term health and social care support. Sharon Frew, STV News.
Meanwhile, bereaved families met the Deputy First Minister John Swinney today, calling for action to get the Scottish COVID inquiry back on track. Progress was stalled after the judge Lady Poole and part of the legal team resigned. Relatives say they've been made to feel more included in the separate UK inquiry, which started last week.
Up until now, the families have felt they are on a sinking ship. Whilst they fully understand that the judiciary must protect, firstly, their independence, the families feel they have a right to answers from those who know, and that would include the Lord President.
We've never felt we've been front and centre of the inquiry in Scotland once Lady Poole took charge. Any replacement chair who cannot command our respect and the cooperation of the families will find that their inquiry lacks credibility.
An improved pay offer is to be put to unions representing NHS workers. Hamza Yousaf said the offer is a significant improvement on the 5% previously rejected by health and social care staff. The Royal College of Nursing is balloting nurses on strike action for the first time in its 100-year history.
Scotland's largest teaching union has opened a strike ballot over teachers' pay in all 32 council areas. The EIS is strongly urging its members to vote yes to industrial action after rejecting a 5% pay offer it described as wholly inadequate. The council's representative COSLA and the Scottish Government say they're disappointed it was rejected.
Scottish teachers really mean it when they say that they believe they deserve a fair pay settlement that much more closely matches the rate of inflation. Currently what's on the table on offer to them is 5% from COSLA and the Scottish Government, and that amounts to a real terms pay cut of almost 8%.
The Irish FA have issued an apology after a video emerged showing players singing a pro-IRA song following their 1-0 win over Scotland. The footage showed team members chanting in the Hampden Park dressing room on Tuesday night after the team qualified for the World Cup for the first time in their history. Dundee United are investigating after allegations a Hibernian player was racially abused by a supporter during their Premiership match at Tannadice last night. Footage from the second half of the game appears to pick up audio of a racist comment against Hibs midfielder Jair Tavares.
Both sides maintain discriminatory and racist behaviour has no place in the game. The league's governing body, the SPFL, say they're reviewing the audio recordings of the incident. Vanessa Taff reports.
With just under 5 minutes remaining of Dundee United's match against Hibernian, Hibs forward Jair Tavares was attempting to retrieve the ball which had gone out of play. At the time, a supporter can be heard shouting abusive language from the stand. The Edinburgh club claim that comment was racist. In a statement, they say they've contacted Dundee United and are strongly supporting any investigation into this matter. In response, Dundee United claim their initial investigations found only 2 microphones were active in the stadium during the broadcast on the TV gantry. The footage shown at the time the alleged incident occurred took place on the opposite side of the stadium from where the microphones were placed. The incident sparked outrage amongst fans and the SFA's equality advisor. He's asking for people to report what he calls the scumbag and wants footballing bodies to come down hard on the incident. Those working to eradicate racism from the game want action.
Racism becomes something that becomes more acceptable because there is that abusive, vitriolic kind of crowd behaviour becoming quite routine. So whatever the outcome of that investigation about this specific incident, nevertheless there is a player that is at their place of work who has received kind of vicious, insulting, demeaning kind of abuse.
The SPFL are reviewing audio recordings from Tannadice. Tonight, yet again, racism in our football stadiums is front and centre. Vanessa Taff, STV News.
Well, European football continues tonight and it's Rangers' turn this evening. Rahman is at Ibrox.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
A very good evening from Ibrox, where tonight Rangers face Liverpool in the Champions League. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's side sit bottom of their group, having lost all 3 games, but they're determined to get off the mark tonight and have vowed to take the game to last season's beaten finalists. Here's Ronnie Charters.
This Champions League campaign has not been the return to the competition Rangers had hoped for. A campaign which has yet to yield a single goal, let alone a point. Last week's 2-0 defeat in Liverpool means Rangers' European hopes hang in the balance, and the squad know a result tonight is crucial.
The results haven't been good enough. Everyone can see that, but
We don't like it just as much as everyone watching us and supporting us. And obviously we're going to go into the game tomorrow trying to rectify that. We need some points on the board if we want to get something off the group. So definitely going to win the game, and that's what we're going to do.
This is how the group looks ahead of matchday number 4. Rangers bottom, 3 points behind Ajax. Liverpool sits second on 6 points, with Napoli top, a perfect 3 wins from 3.
I think we have to find more moments in the game when we can be dangerous. Of course, our approach will be different tomorrow, because we, as I said before, we need points to hopefully play also after the break in Europe. So, but we're still gonna play a really good side.
Liverpool head into the game not in the best run of form, as well as a few injuries. Jurgen Klopp's side sit 10th in the Premier League and expect a battle against Rangers tonight.
They want to put things right, and they want to get points in the Champions League group, and they tried it with a, I'm not sure how to say it, but maybe a rather defensive approach, 5 in the back, and now they want to attack and want to go for it in a great atmosphere. Never played here. I'm really excited to experience that.
Last year, Ibrox was the stage of many a great European performance for Rangers. For Giovanni van Bronckhorst and his players, tonight they need another. Ronnie Charters, STV News.
So it's Rangers against Liverpool tonight. Last night, Celtic were in Champions League action, and Ange Postecoglou says he'll continue with his style of football and is confident success at this level will eventually come. The Parkhead side were eliminated from the competition following their 2-0 loss to RB Leipzig.
I thought we showed all the effort and endeavour to try and win a game of football, but as we found out at this level, if you don't take your chances, it's then very hard to convert sort of all that into a result, so disappointed. I think the worst thing you can do is kind of now shy away from doing what we're doing because we haven't had success immediately at this level. And
now, Scotland captain Rachel Corsie believes they have made a lot of progress under head coach Pedro Martinez-Losa, but admits last night's World Cup playoff defeat was a missed opportunity. The 1-0 loss to the Republic of Ireland means the Scots won't be playing in next year's finals. Here's Sheila McLaren.
I'm sure I speak on behalf of everybody that we're gutted. It's just such a horrible way to leave the competition. It's knockout football at this stage, and yeah, we've not taken this opportunity again.
See how far we have come, and I think that really drives people on, because you want to learn, you want to keep getting better, and when you can see that, it makes you want more and more. And sadly, it wasn't enough to ultimately get the result tonight, which was what it was all about. But we have to trust that if we can keep moving in that direction and keep doing it quickly and making big changes, a lot more growth, we'll give ourselves the best chance, and we have to buy into it.
So disappointment there for Pedro Martinez-Losa's side. One final piece of football news. The SFA has revealed VAR will be used in a Scottish Premiership match for the first time later this month. The clash between Hibs and St Johnstone a week on Friday will be the first game to use the technology. And that, folks, just about all your sport from me tonight, live from Ibrox, ahead of Rangers against Liverpool in the Champions League.
Get your fill of the action. STV Sport, sponsored by Papa John's Pizza.
Now Philip has the weather forecast.
Hello, good evening. Well, things are staying pretty autumnal over the next few days. Nothing out of the ordinary for the time of year. Some pretty wet and windy conditions to come, but below the warning limits, as it's what we'll expect for October. Let's take a closer look at what's in store. Here is the forecast.
Watch out for a sudden temperature drop. TUI Blue Hotels, sponsor STV Weather.
Well, as we start to head through the rest of this evening and overnight, to begin with, we will have very light isolated showers around, but then for most of us things are turning largely dry and clear with very light winds, the exception being across the very far west, where we'll see just some showery rain spreading in through the early hours of tomorrow morning. So with the light winds, the dry and clear conditions, it does mean it will be a very chilly night to come. We're likely to see a widespread rural frost. Most towns and cities, though, staying just above freezing with lows of around 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. Now, the compensation for the very cold night is that tomorrow morning it will be a lovely autumnal crisp start to the day. For many central and eastern areas, we're holding on to the really dry and sunny conditions for much of the afternoon. Across the far west, however, we will start to see the winds picking up strength and a band of cloud and rain spreading in. Temperature-wise, reaching highs of around 12 or 13 degrees Celsius, so feeling a little bit chillier than today. Then looking ahead to Friday, overnight Thursday into Friday, another band of rain crosses the country. It will clear through quite quickly Friday morning, and we will see some sunshine developing. It will be very brief, however, as later on in the day, another band of rain spreads in from the north and west with highs of 11 or 12 degrees Celsius. Looking ahead to Saturday, unfortunately, a very unsettled start to the weekend and remaining quite chilly with temperatures reaching highs of 11. Bye-bye.
TUI Blue Hotels. Sponsor STV Weather.
And that's all from us. Rona is back at 10:40 with Scotland tonight. Bernard will have more analysis of the Supreme Court hearing on IndyRef 2.
And from all of us here, enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.
Good night.